Hey, Peter Schmalfeld here. Week number 5, big update for me. I knew what I needed was a kind of like a combat engine. There was multiple things I needed. I want to show you basically what I found. There is a company called Ninja Bear Studio, and they actually seem to have quite a bit. And it had the interaction element, which was for me like being able to pick up items and throw them. The obviously the combat one, the input one, which was it actually seemed to cover a lot of the areas I was interested in, and the bot, which is the part that's going to allow me to fight different things. But the thing that really sold me is I noticed down here it had a little GitHub link, and I recognized the documentation where I was like, I think this might be just a GitHub like docs page, and sure enough, it is. So I found the documentation in here, and I found all the different plugins and stuff like that were in here. So each of those topics that was in here is actually in this documentation. Why this matters is if you're like me and you do a lot of AI related stuff, um, I know I'm gonna have a million questions. So let's say that I was picking this combat one, and I knew that I'm specifically using combat with bot and the input and the interaction plugins. Um, and because in my previous videos, I know you are familiar with it, I was working on a GPT agent that knew what my plans were for the game, like what kind of game mechanics, how I wanted the characters to move, like the just all the details you can think about for a game are in there. I realized I was like, well, if I now take that collective knowledge of everything that I've already got, and then I'm able to drop in this new resource, and now magically I have a whole bunch of really helpful information. A little too much, like I said, for like a GPT agent, but where it does shine is inside of like an IDE where you can set up a project. So this is actually that GPT agent. And you can see like literally all I did is I took I made a Ninja Bear folder, and I put every one of the plugins that I had purchased in there. And then I had an interaction with Codex, which is this AI coding agent that I used, where essentially I said, take the knowledge that I have in here about the game, and then what I want you to do is come up with an integration plan for how to integrate those plugins into the game, knowing what my plans are for the game. Well, what this turned into was something that now I can use Codex inside of VS Code. And because it has access to the project, it's like the original GPT agent, it has all the original knowledge that I had about my plans for making a game. Plus, now it has this folder that I can give a reference to. And this plan, the way I've set it up, is kind of the thing that I think is worth talking about for this week. So I've got like what I broke it down into is I've got like a basic objective, and this is like I said the just what the goal is, integrating the plugins. Then it has like the intent and design goals, the current project context, which gives a little bit of information about the project. Then a lot of stuff that's inside there. Rules for future agents, and then so the very last step of all of this is that once I'm done with everything, I have to go back in and re-update my agent's documentation to give it the information that it learned. So you can see in here where I'm at since last week. There's quite a bit stuff to do. And then each phase, I had it break it down into kind of the goal for that phase and then individual tasks. Once it got to like a phase where I was working on something that I knew, I was like, oh, that's going to be important. I need to remember that. And the goal is that once this is all done, this is going to go to the GPT's knowledge so that I can then say, what button is this again? Like it's got a reference material. So that's what's great about this. So from there, then what's next is the my ability to interact with it. So just what that looks like on the right-hand side here, I've got Codex open. You can see I have a prompt where I start the day where I'm saying we are continuing with documentation, read this plan, and here's where I basically what I want you to be working on. And the last thing that I knew we were working on was this. And then it started going through. And so what I get now is I get really helpful instructions that breaks things down into very small steps. And then what's helpful about doing it this way, and what I think is actually really important about doing it this way, is that the context window of the AI doesn't get confused on like if it had given me all 13 instructions, for example, at once, where it was like go through, or all 13 steps with subsections of instructions. If I was on step number 1 and I was like, oh, I'm on part 5 of step number 1 and I don't understand how to do that. Well, now it's now it had generated all this other stuff that's just kind of a mess. And it starts to really kind of, that's where hallucination and things like that with AI started to come in. So doing it this way, I've given it a focus where the conversation is around just a single step and then the instructions to complete just that step. There's no like verbose explanations or like reasoning or anything like that. It's just like, here's your step-by-step instructions you can follow. And if I were to get to one of these steps and go, I don't see this on here, or can you clarify that? It does a much better job of keeping on task and going, oh, that's this. And it doesn't regenerate the entire instructions or start breaking up the instructions in multiple places where it gets really frustrated. The next thing I would like to show from this is basically what does this turn into? Like, what have you actually done with this? What I've actually been able to do is make some hitboxes for the character. So you can see I've got some color coding here for the character, and then like red, I picked the red for this hitbox here to be like the things that are going to take the most damage, and then the color coding is just for me 100%. But yeah, it's been pretty fun to just play around with this character and see all the different things it can do. Moving on to another thing I had to learn how to do, because I did I've seen this in videos of people messing around with Unreal, but I'm like, I've never seen this timeline ever before. This is something that now I get to play around with it. And what's interesting here is that there's the ability for you to attach to a bone or a part of a limb, where you can say this is the thing that can actually give damage. And in an animation cycle, you can actually kind of tune or fine tune to where, in this case, the character's actually at the extent of the range. So if they're doing a punch, when the hand is fully extended out, then that is where I want this trigger to kind of say, this is, if this makes contact with another character, this is consider that damage. And then it ends in this area. So each of these animations is something that I had to go through and set up those little, like, when the actual animation is making contact, like where the point is on the body that is going to be making the contact that was going to be issuing the damage, like, and then do that for each of these. And there is quite a number of animations that I have for this, so this is going to take a while. And what I've been focusing on this last week is just going through one kind of like complete set of mechanics. I realize I'm like, I shouldn't do everything, but I should try to at least think about like the different combat mechanics. And so there's going to be punches, there's like staggering of like you get hit by something. I also wanted to have like stamina driven animations where like if you're wearing yourself out, you get tired. If you get hit and your health is low, you get tired. Then eventually I'd like to get like a, like a death animation or a falling, collapsing animation, things like that going. And then all of this ties into what, how the gameplay is going to play out. And that is actually the fun part. That was where last week, where I said I was hoping I can complete this, is I wanted to be able to have an animation where you can throw a punch, and then have it, like have the other person receive damage. And then I was hoping I can get a bot going where they can fight me back. That might be next week because there's still a lot of work to do. You can see like now I'm far away. Like I don't actually, let me get a little bit further out. So I'm not getting damage on this, but if I pull in enough where that actually hits, like then you can see it hits. But I can also start wildly swinging and just button smashing. And then now you can see my character is getting a little bit bleh. And it gets to the point where they're so tired that they can't actually swing anymore. And that is something I wanted to have in the game. And then likewise, if I go up to the other character and I hit them a bunch, then at some point their animation changes where they start staggering and there you go. But yeah, so this is all obviously super still rough, but for now, if I stay focused in here, then that allows me to really kind of fine tune how the game feels. And once it feels like an actual proper game and things are hitting the way that I want them to hit, then it probably makes sense to start looking at the other things like designing a level and things like that. But that's about it for this week. So yeah, I appreciate you guys watching as usual. So hopefully by next week I might have an AI bot integration going. We'll see, but fingers crossed. That's where my plan. So yeah, see you guys next week. Bye.